Hey, 7th graders, this is Mr. Hallard again with another one of our fifth lessons. We're back to our usual home in the classroom today. We're going to be looking at our number 73, Proclamation of 1763. You should have this cut out already in your notebook. Our notes are going to go right here, all right? Up the box here is going to be a no trespassing sign. You're going to create that, and then at the bottom, we're going to do a short 1 to 2 sentence response kind of to the last question. So over here on your map, you're going to have 1, 2, and 3 is kind of the main reasons why the English or Great Britain created the Proclamation Act of 1763. So the first reason why is England used this opportunity to regain control of the colonies. They'd been using this policy of salutary neglect, which basically England has allowed the colonies to be the colonies. As long as they were trading, remember, through the mercantilism policy and making the crown money, they weren't really enforcing too many of the laws that Parliament was doing on the colonies. So the colonies could kind of ignore them pretty much. So if the Parliament created a tax, the colonies weren't really paying them because the colonies were making the crown so much money with trade and things like that. Great Britain saw this as a way to regain their power in the colonies, basically saying that, hey, we just fought a war to kind of protect you. So if we're protecting you, you better pay up for that part of the law. After the French and Indian War, the government of England is hugely in debt and thinks it's the colonies' jobs to help pay for that debt because they feel the war was largely due to protect the colonies. So they saw this as an opportunity to kind of rein in the independence of the colonies and make sure the colonies knew who was kind of ruling them. Second reason is better relations with the Native Americans. As we saw right after the war, French and Indian War, Pontiac's Rebellion was happening. The frontier was basically a war zone. White settlers were attacking Native American villages. Native Americans were attacking white settlements, and the war was hand-to-hand combat. It was absolutely brutal. Men, women, children were dying at a huge rate. So one of the things that the Crown thought as a way to stop this and to kind of help their Native American allies was to ban the white settlers from being there in the first place. The Crown's kind of rationalization of this is if the white settlers are not there, there's decreased contact between the settlers and the Native Americans, which is going to decrease the violence happening between them. Whether or not that would necessarily happen, we're not really sure, because when the Proclamation of 1763, it's hugely, it can't be enforced. If you look at that border, I mean, you can't create a fence along that border. You can't have troops stationed there to enforce it. So it was more kind of it wasn't really followed through. It was more of like a symbol to the Native Americans that, hey, you helped us, we're going to help you. It did decrease overall violence because you weren't seeing Native Americans or settlers coming over in droves and things like that. But we didn't see a lot of huge war type things like what we saw with Pontiac's Rebellion and things like that happening during this time period. And lastly, the King of England and Parliament saw the Proclamation of 1763 as a chance to have economic gains for England, because if they were the ones that control the land, they could do two things. Number one, they could sell the land to the colonists as they needed, and they did sell some gains, mostly to like companies and things like that, but not to the individual colonies, which many of the individual colonies had staked claims already to the lands to the west. So they kind of got rid of all of those claims and were able to kind of chunk up this land and be able to sell it to larger companies who could then down the road sell it into individual plots to white settlers. The other thing they could do is sell what were called trade licenses to these companies that allow them to go and physically trade with the Native Americans, with the hopes that, again, these folks would be able to understand that the Native American is a little bit better than your typical white settler or American colonists, and be able to have much better relations. So, and this was one of the reasons the crown was making so much money that this was supposed to be a temporary. They didn't see this as being like a long-term thing. But from 1763 to 1775, right at the eve of the American Revolution, the Proclamation of 1763 was still being enforced because of the economic gains the crown was making. Lastly, you're going to do on the bottom underneath on your notes, we'll talk about a little bit about this class. How do you think the colonies would react to the Proclamation of 1763? You're going to write a 1 to 2 sentence response. You're going to rag below your map on page 73 in your notebook. Had a little music delay there. But one of the things when you're doing your rag, make sure you're ragging the sentence. Make sure you're answering the questions. Would they supported this act? Would they have not supported this act? And make sure you're giving some details to support. A couple things to think about. Number one, remember why the colonists kind of decided they would help or they would want to fight. They originally wanted this land. What did they want this land for? Think about the economic opportunities. Think about the political kind of limitations that the King of England and the Parliament were putting on the colonists. All of those could kind of, you could have social, political, economic reactions to this from the colonists. If you have any questions on anything, again, hit me up on Schoology and I'll be able to get to you as soon as possible. Thanks.